John 15, verse 1 to 8. I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that does not produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father.
This week in our series on the I Am statements of Jesus, we are looking at where Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, well, what is a vine? So I've come here to Dan and Beck's beautiful garden where they have this incredible vine. Now, as you can see, it's just planted at one point into the ground and it has this strong stem coming out, and all of the rest of it, all the branches come from this one strong central point that's anchored. So all the way up here across, and it was going into their neighbour's garden but has been pruned, are branches, and all the way around here. Come with me, let's go for a walk and see just how big this vine is. Lots of branches, and it carries on round the corner. Every single one of these branches is connected into the vine, and it carries on down here. So Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches, remain in me. He also says that his Father is the gardener. So let's go now and find out what role a gardener does.
Hi, lovely to see you both. Thank you for letting me into your beautiful garden. So, can you help us understand what is the job of a gardener?
There's mowing the lawn, there's doing the weeding, there's pruning, but that's just the basics.
And what's really important is to prepare the ground, make sure there's lots of compost in the soil when we've dug it over properly, preferably lots of manure in there as well.
So, I have to ask then, which one of you is the head gardener?
This person here is the head gardener.
And why is that?
Well, sometimes you have to make tricky decisions as a gardener. So, for example, this shrub behind us here, it was really, really tall, really, really ugly, and it was quite tempting, to be honest, just to dig it up. But actually, no, there was potential in there, and what we had to do was cut half of it down, right down hard to the ground, and it was about 20 foot high, and take it out of the way, but leave one branch left, about 20 foot by itself. It looked stupid, it looked ugly, and it was just blowing around by itself, but it needed that in order for the plant still to grow. Then it grew new shoots, and then that means in this next year we could cut down the other half, and then it grew new shoots again. So now we've got a bush that actually looks quite nice, and it is what I was originally hoping was going to happen, even though that took 2 years to achieve.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for welcoming us to your lovely garden, and thank you for all the gardening advice.
Good gardeners really know what they're doing. They care for the plants. They want them to flourish. The gardener prepares the ground. He waters, weeds, prunes. He knows exactly what to do to make the plants reach their full potential. Now, as Graham said, sometimes the gardener has to make some difficult decisions. Pamela trusted him because she knew that he knows what he's talking about, that given the right treatment, that particular plant would flourish rather than have to be cut down entirely. Jesus says that while he is the vine, his Father, God, is the gardener. We are the branches, and we need to trust the gardener, our Father God. He wants us to bear good fruit, and he knows how to grow it.
As we live our lives, we want to be reflecting God's glory. When a plant wins a prize in a competition, it isn't the plant that gets the prize, it's the gardener. As the gardener is the one who has worked hard looking after the plant. In the same way, we need to be reflecting God's glory to the people around us. As in verse 8 of our passage it says, when we bear fruit, God gets the glory.
So, healthy plants produce fruit, and judging by the number of times Jesus talks about fruit in this passage, he's obviously quite keen on seeing that fruit. And you know, kids, I know someone else who's looking for fruit.
Hello, I'm Freddy Fruit Hunter and I love fruit. Now, are you ready, kids? Because we're going to have a funny few minutes. You might need to get your grown-ups involved. We want to see everybody joining in. So, who's going to look for some fruit with me? The best way I know of to look for some fruit is with my favourite game, probably your favourite game too. It's Fruit or Frog. Yeah! Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Here's our first one. What do you think, kids? Is it fruit? Is it a frog?
Frog! 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 Frog!
Let's see. What could it be? Whoa! Yay! It's fruit! I love fruit. What kind of fruit is that, Elliot?
It's a rambutan.
Rambutan. Wow, every day's a school day. Okay, who's ready? Number 2. Fruit or frog?
Frog! 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 Frog!
What do we think? Let's go. Whoa! Oh, it was a frog. I thought it was a banana. Anyway, let's see if we can find some more fruit. Who's ready for number 3? What do you think? Fruit or frog?
Frog! 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 Frog!
Let's find out. Whoa! Yay! It's a fruit! My favourite fruit. What kind of fruit is that, kids?
Orange!
Yes! Fantastic. Right, we're on a roll now. What could this be? Fruit or frog? Fruit or frog? Fruit or frog?
Frog! 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 Frog!
Let's find out. Whoa! Boo! It's a frog. That's very disappointing. Let's see if we can find some fruit. Who's still there? Are you there, kids? Who can give me a wave? Yeah. Okay, right. Our next one. Fruit or frog? Fruit or frog? What do we think?
Frog! 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 Frog!
Let's find out. Is it fruit? Is it a frog? Whoa! Oh! Another frog! Oh, we must be better at finding fruit. I'm sure I can find some. What do we think here? I think this is the last one. It looks a little bit scary. Ah! What do you think? Fruit or frog? Fruit or frog?
Frog! 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 Frog!
Okay, let's find out. Whoa! Yay! It was fruit. Amazing. Thank you for helping me find all my fruit. I love fruit. Yeah!
Wow, brilliant. Hey, I wonder how many you got there. How many did you all get right? And you've now got a new game that you can use to while away those long summer evenings. But yeah, the serious point there, though, is that fruit is a really good thing. Fruit is something that we pursue not because we have to, not because we're being tested on the amount of fruit, but because it's a good thing. It's something that we want in our life. So it's a really important question for us to ask then. What is that fruit? What is it that we're supposed to be excited about seeing grow in our lives? And there are 3 things that we wanted to share. We've gone for the high-tech solution here. So the first one is us growing in our character, growing in becoming like Jesus. And this is the work of the Spirit in us. We often talk about the fruit of the Spirit in our lives. And as I thought about this, I thought actually there is so much goodness here, and especially in this current season, how many people around us would love to be filled with peace, would love to be filled with joy, would love to be filled with patience and kindness and self-control. And that is something that God says, if you remain in me, I will grow that in you. As you become like Jesus, I will grow that in you. That is an amazing thing for us to to pursue and to look forward to and to enjoy as that grows in our life. You know, if I grow in peace, I'm only going to benefit from that, and the people around me as well. The second thing is our actions, that part of the fruit that will be born is our good deeds, and that we will serve our communities, our families, and those around us, and that we will bring the blessing of God's kingdom to them. And finally, the fruit of multiplication, that other people will get to know Jesus for themselves, that they too will get to experience this. And Jesus is saying, if you remain in me, then this is the fruit that is going to be born. So Jesus says that there are two ways that will have a significant impact on the amount of fruit that is born. And we're going to look into those. So the first of those is pruning.
Hi, Liz. Lovely to see you. So can you tell us, what is pruning?
Pruning is getting rid of all the old and dead bits of a plant.
And why is that important to do pruning?
Well, if we didn't prune, we wouldn't get the plant to grow and bloom as it should.
Great. So what's the positive effect of pruning?
You get more.
You get more. And so can you show us something that you've pruned?
I've got the rose.
That's gorgeous. And so how much have you pruned that this year?
Well, it prunes right down to the ground every year and it grows.
Wow. And do you get more flowers because you've pruned it?
Yeah, and a healthier plant as well.
That's fantastic. Great pruning. Thanks for the gardening advice, Liz. Oh, you're going to show us the tool that you use for pruning as well. Wow. That's fantastic. Thank you for the gardening tips.
When it comes to pruning, Liz knew to cut the rows almost down to ground level. Graham showed me an apple tree in their garden, and he said that he prunes off any branches that start to grow inwards because they don't bear fruit and they stop the air circulating around the plant and it becomes diseased. The whole tree is more fruitful when it has been pruned well. In verse 2, Jesus says, God cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. And later he talks about those branches being thrown into the fire. While every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it'll be even more fruitful. Jesus is making it very clear that there are only two options for us: to be cut off or to be pruned and fruitful. There isn't a stay connected to the vine but not be pruned option. There's prune or death.
Prune or death, prune or death, what is it gonna be? Good morning and welcome to my garden. Now then, what will it be, sir? Prune or death? Prune, I guess. Okay, no problem. Here we go. Now, you might feel a little... Ow! 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 Ouch! Ow! 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 Ah! And for you now, sir, prune or death? Death! Oh! Wait, no! Prune! Prune! I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take your first answer. Duh! Such a shame. Oh, one more. How are we today?
Nervous?
I have to tell you, it will hurt, but it will be worth it.
Okay, I'll go for it. Prune.
Good choice. Here we go.
Ow! Ow! No, stop! Stop!
Have you changed your mind?
Yes, it hurts.
So what are you going to choose?
I choose no pruning.
You mean death?
No, I mean no pruning.
Sorry, that's not an option. It's prune or death.
What's death like?
It doesn't hurt at first, but then it's bad. Really bad.
Okay, I'm gonna stick with pruning. Ow! Oh, it still hurts! Ow! Ow!
Nearly there.
Oh, that is so good. That really was worth it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very welcome in this garden. Prune or death, what what is it gonna be?
Well, I hope you found that helpful. There is pain in the pruning, but it's worth it for the fruit. This is why it's so important that we know and trust the head gardener. He loves us. He wants to see good fruit grow in our lives. He knows what he's doing, and he knows what to do to see us flourish. So what does pruning actually look like for us as Christians? For God to cut off the parts of us that are stopping us from growing well? I've got a bit of a story of pruning from my life, which is God dealing with the problem of gossip. As a teenager, I loved both to hear gossip and to be the person who had the latest news to share, with no thought whatsoever for whether what I was saying was honouring the person I was talking about, or to be honest, whether or not it was even actually true. As I grew as a Christian, God convicted me that he wanted to deal with this, to prune that part of my character. It was painful, both to admit my sin and confess my sin. God, the gardener, by his Spirit and in his love, pruned this out because he wanted me to be more like Jesus in my heart, in my speech, in my relationships, to be more fruitful. Now, even though God chopped off a big branch many, many years ago, little shoots still grow back from time to time that need to be dealt with again. Last week, I had to apologise to somebody for sharing a story of theirs that wasn't mine to share. It is painful being pruned, but it is worth it.
Okay, so pruning is one of the key ways that God brings about fruitfulness in our life. But there's another thing here that Jesus talks about that is even more fundamental, and that is remaining in him.
What are you doing, Alex? I'm trying to grow fruit. You can't do that unless you're connected to the vine. Okay. Wow, that was a lot of fruit.
Jesus says, "Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." So while pruning increases our fruitfulness, if the branch doesn't remain in the vine, then the gardener hasn't got anything to work with. It just will not produce fruit. And pruning is God's work in us, but remaining is our work. That's what we do. Pruning is what happens to us, and we need to not resist it, but remaining is something that we must actively do. I say must, this isn't a command. You'll notice Jesus says if a lot here. This is an invitation. This is something that we get to do. We get to remain in Jesus. Just like when the branch remains in the vine, it receives life and stability and nourishment. And when we remain in Jesus, we have that life of God flowing through us. This is an immense privilege. In verse 4, just before, Jesus says, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you." When we remain in Jesus, we get him. He remains in us. This isn't something that we have to do in our own strength. This is a great privilege and a great joy. So this is Jesus' beautiful message to us. This fruit that we've been talking about, this wonderful fruit of growing in godly character, becoming more like Jesus, of living life full of good deeds, and of seeing people won into God's kingdom. Jesus says this fruit will come if you remain in me. If you remain in me, this fruit will come. But the problem is, I don't know if I actually believe him. I mean, I want to. I agree with the idea, but when I look at my life, it seems to reflect a slightly different truth. I remain in Jesus when I'm at the end of myself, when I've run out of ideas, or when I've done all my important jobs. If there's still some time at the end, then I remain in him. If I'm looking to do some kind of ministry and there's not time to remain in Jesus and do whatever the important thing is, then often I think, well, that thing needs to be done, and I'll do it. Whereas if I really believed this, then surely I would say there's no point me doing any of that stuff if I'm not remaining in Jesus, because it will not bear fruit. You know, there's a real freedom that I get to put stuff down and choose to remain in Jesus. So yeah, I don't know when I look at my life why I don't seem to be believing that truth. You know, maybe I focus too much on the external things, on the salvation and the good works, rather than the growing in the life of the Spirit. Maybe I'm afraid that the idea that God doesn't need my help. Maybe I'm confusing simple with easy, because this is a really simple message from Jesus. Remain in me and you will bear fruit. Apart from me you can do nothing. That's not a complicated message. But it's not easy. At least I'm not finding it easy to actually live that out, to actually act on that. You know, or maybe I just don't really fully understand what remaining looks like, what that really means to remain in Jesus. But I want to grow in this. And if we want to be fruitful, then what better thing than that we can grow in than learning and growing in remaining in Jesus.
There's so much depth in this passage that it would be easy to be overwhelmed, and there'll be different things in there for each of us. So we want to give a few minutes now to allow God to show you what he wants you to grab hold of. So here are a couple of questions that might help.
Firstly, where is God pruning in your life right now? And where do you need to trust the gardener to prune well for your good and for his glory?
And secondly, what does remaining in Jesus look like in your life? And what one step could you take this week towards remaining in him more?
We're going to take a couple of minutes now to think and pray about this. So take some time with God or talk with the people in your household.
Rescued the